Hey Soul Surfers, welcome back to Waves of Consciousness with my spiritual ocean. My name is Alicia. Today we are going to ride the manifestation wave, as we often seem to do here. At this point, I should probably just call this podcast Waves of Manifestation, but I'm not going to do that. Anyway, we are riding the manifestation wave, and we are going to talk about how to stop reacting to the 3D so you can manifest what you want. If you're all set, let's go ahead and dive on in. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, you can book services online at www.myspiritualocean.com. Reacting to your 3D keeps you in a perpetual loop of experiencing the things that you do not want. Now, if you do react to the 3D, please do not shame yourself, because even if you do react to the 3D, that doesn't mean you have messed anything up. You cannot mess up your manifestation. It doesn't matter if you react to the 3D or not. It's what you do in response that matters, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. First, let's talk about what reacting is. When we break down the word react, means to do again, and act is acting, so taking action. So when you're reacting, you're taking the same action again, or doing something again, the same as before. If you've ever heard the quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's this. So if you are reacting, you're taking the same actions, showing up the same way, thinking the same things, feeling the same ways, etc., with the hopes of a different outcome. But that new outcome never comes. And that's because the only way to get a different outcome is to act differently or respond versus react in your 3D. If you find yourself asking the questions, why does this keep happening? Or saying this always happens to me, then you have found yourself in a pattern. So some things to look at are, how have I handled this situation before or in the past? Am I doing that the same way this time? And if you find that you have reacted to the situation the same as before, then it's time to make a change. When you find yourself in a pattern, you are usually operating from some sort of belief. It could be a belief about yourself or about the specific scenario or area of life that you're in at the time. But when you get to the core of what that belief is, then you can change it. And if you're having trouble identifying the beliefs that you may be acting from or living from, the belief code can help. You can learn more about that on my website. Most of the time when we are reacting to the 3D, we are not actually reacting to whatever's currently happening. It is usually a reaction to something from the past that has been triggered or surfaced for us. So another way to look at this is, instead of reacting or retaking the same steps, you're reenacting something from the past. The best example I have of this is in love and relationships. So when people are chasing after their specific person, or they're having severe emotional reactions, or feeling a fear of abandonment or fear of rejection, that's usually because someone in their childhood made them feel that way, and that's where they originally adopted the belief or that fear. So if someone has a fear of abandonment and someone is saying that they're going to break up with them, then that person may beg the other person to stay. But what they're really doing is trying to heal a wound that they have with their parents through this other person. So it's not actually this other person that is triggering them or causing or eliciting this emotional response. It's a past situation that has yet to be processed and is still stored in the subconscious mind or in the system. Reacting is usually a built-in automatic response anyway. It's not rooted in logic, so you may not even realize it's happening. You're just doing it. An example of this is, let's say somebody has stage fright, okay? And they need to speak in front of a whole bunch of people. They may realize that they're afraid to do this, but what they might not realize is that their body starts to respond. So their heart might start racing. Their body might start to sweat. These are all automatic responses to whatever's going on. It's not the person logically saying, oh, my heart needs to start racing now. My palms need to start sweating, or whatever it is. It's just a built-in response to whatever's happening. So when people are reacting to their 3D, they're doing so from an emotional standpoint. That emotion is driving something, driving the action, driving the words that they're saying, even though they might not mean it. It's just automatic, and it's reaffirming and re-solidifying a belief that is already there. Now, I've said it once and I will say it again and I will continue to say it because I really don't like seeing this in the manifestation community. But having an emotional reaction and experiencing an emotion is not the same thing as reacting to your 3D. Reacting to your 3D is the action you take in response to the emotion you are experiencing. So if you experience a heightened emotion in a scenario, please do not shame yourself. That's only going to make things feel worse. And in fact, part of not reacting to the 3D is actually being kind to yourself after you've taken that action. So if you're experiencing an emotion, please don't try to suppress it, hide it, anything like that. Allow it to be there so you can process it. Now, of course, if you are in what feels like a triggering situation or in a highly emotional space and you want to get out of that, remove yourself from that situation because the body, the mind needs to feel safety before it can even process that emotion. If the system is imbalanced in any way because it's in a high stress state from whatever is going on, it is less likely to be able to process that emotion. As they say, shame dies in safe spaces. And also, emotions are processed in safe spaces. So let's say that you have reacted to the 3D, you've experienced an emotion, and you've taken action from that emotion. Have you ruined anything? No, you have not. Nothing is ruinable. You are in charge of your reality. So when you react to the 3D, that gives you insight into what's going on, so you can use that information to your advantage. The other way to use that information is to shame yourself, which is not helpful because you cannot shame yourself into a new reality. So instead of using that experience to shame yourself, it's better to look at it and reflect. So once you've come down from that emotion and allowed yourself to process it, you can look back and say, hey, what belief was activated that caused me to take that action? Even if you do something as simple as change the way you treat yourself after you react to the 3D, that is breaking a pattern. That is breaking a cycle. Because I can almost guarantee you, if you are shaming yourself for certain actions that you've taken or for certain emotions that you're experiencing, you probably had a parent or caregiver or somebody that you loved in childhood who shamed you or shut down your emotions or did not allow you to make mistakes. So now, instead of talking to yourself like they probably talk to you, change your self-talk and watch what happens. Okay, so that's the first thing. Stop shaming yourself if you react to the 3D. But let's talk about now how to stop reacting to the 3D. The first step is to start observing. Notice when you want to take an action, or even start to notice when you have taken an action, and just observe that without judgment or shame, as I mentioned before. The more you start to practice the observance of this and observing the emotion you're experiencing, the more you're going to break that cycle and the less likely you are to do that automatic response. So essentially, you're breaking that automatic reaction, that automatic where you don't feel like you have control, but you're just doing it because that's what's programmed into your mind, into your system. The next step is to start practicing learning how to process and validate your emotions. When you create that safe space and validate how you feel without taking action on it, that allows that energy to move through you more quickly. There are a lot of different ways and techniques that you can do this. One of my favorite affirmations that I like to use in this instance is, even though I'm feeling this way right now, I still love and accept myself. That statement really fosters an atmosphere of safety and letting myself know that I can take care of myself and be with myself, and that I'm safe to experience these emotions and nothing bad is going to happen to me. EFT tapping is another really great tool. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel you can refer to for EFT tapping videos. I also have a tapping template where I don't say any affirmations, so you can just tap along and use your own affirmations as well. You can journal how you're feeling. There's also different somatic techniques depending what emotion you're experiencing that will help you get in touch with your body and not disconnect or dissociate from it when you're experiencing that emotion. So really many different ways, and it's going to be different based on your needs. Try different things and see what works for you. And also remember that something that worked once before or on a certain emotion may not be what works in a different scenario that you're in. So it's nice to have different tools in your toolbox to help you move through these situations. And you're going to keep doing this process until it feels natural. The more that you find yourself in these situations and you observe, allow yourself to process and switch the narrative, again, I call this the validate and shift method, the more naturally you're not going to feel so reactive to the 3D, because you will have broken the ties to that old belief system and old identity of who you were. And being the new you, taking different actions, thinking different thoughts, feeling different ways, is going to become your new identity. And then you move from reacting to the 3D to responding to the 3D. You become in complete control of yourself and therefore your reality. And don't be surprised if you think there's something that you have processed and moved on from, and then it shows up again. Because there have been quite a few times in my experience where I'm like, I thought I already processed this. What is this? Why isn't it gone? But, I don't have control over how it happens. I just move through and then practice the skills that I have learned to stop reacting and respond instead. So if it takes a few times for you to process and release, that's okay. That is totally normal. It's going to take you the time it's going to take, and that pretty much directly correlates with how safe you feel to validate yourself and release those emotions so they don't take control over you. If you need a little boost in breaking the cycle of reacting to the 3D, the emotion code, body code, and belief code can help. Again, you can learn more on my website at www.myspiritualocean.com. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. I will catch you on the next wave.